So I've been doing calendar blocking for a while. I believe the title says it's 6 months, which is the truth. And you would guess it made me enlightened. It didn't, unfortunately. But a lot of other cool things happened, so let's just go over them. First of all, calendar blocking helped me get rid, or at least significantly reduce, this time-induced anxiety. I'm not sure whether the term fear of missing out applies in this particular situation, but what I've been experiencing is this fear of running behind in my own life. It's not that I was comparing myself to someone and then thinking, oh no, these people have already achieved so much and I haven't got anything by this big age of 25. It's not like that. I think I'm pretty good with comparing myself to myself. But the problem is that I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt that by the time I achieved a certain age, I was supposed to have something under my belt. And maybe I did have it, but I didn't perceive it this way. And I think part of the problem was how I perceive information. The thing is, I am not a visual learner. I'm a conceptual learner. So succeeding at school or at work has always been a no-brainer for me because it's super easy for me to absorb new information. I just need to receive the input, then break it down into its building blocks, and then recreate the picture in my own head, and then I can do whatever I want with this information. But turns out that we perceive different types of information differently. And when it comes to time and my own schedule, I actually need some sort of visualization. I was against calendar blocking for the longest time because I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too many productivity systems. And I know it's still the case that many people have just too many routines and too many productivity systems, then it becomes a task on its own. I didn't want that. I know it's just useless. And frankly, I don't have that much time to track all the lists and systems and calendars anyway. And then I started doing it. And the weirdest thing happened. Once I was able to see, like with my own eyes, how I spend my time and where I put my effort and how much each and every task takes, only then was I able to realize that I actually do quite a lot with my life and I put a lot of effort and I actually achieve a lot of things. Another thing related to this anxiety is that I tended to overbook myself. I used to have 10 to 20 tasks a day exactly because I was feeling like I was not doing enough. And I know, to some people it might not be a big deal, and especially if all of the tasks are on the level of brushing your teeth, then of course you can handle easily 10, 20 or even 40 a day. But in my case, all of the tasks were time-consuming, focus requiring tasks that I wouldn't be able to complete in 24 hours unless I'm superhuman or, on some not legally acceptable performance enhancers. And here again, calendar blocking helped me realize how I was spending my time and where I was putting my effort and how much all these tasks were taking out of my life. So instead of chasing all these big different projects, I can now focus only on a few essential goals. For example, right now I have my 9-to-5 job. I can't really ditch it. These videos, they require quite a bit of time and effort. My health, I try to eat properly and exercise regularly and maintaining all the social relationships I have in my life. There are not many, but I try to focus on quality over quantity, which still requires a lot of effort and time. So in the end, calendar blocking helped me divorce this feeling of not being enough, not doing enough, and I guess running behind in my own life. The next one on our list is probably the most obvious and the most anticipated outcome. Calendar blocking helped me become better at planning. So my problem was that I would always run in cycles. I would start working with a steady and somewhat healthy pace. Then at some point, I guess I would get excited about all the progress I had made, so I would try to increase this pace. Halfway through, I would notice that I was getting tired and I wasn't able to handle all these things, but I guess because I'm so outcome oriented or ego driven, I would keep this pace until I ran into burnout. Once I would get burned out, I, of course, would take a few days or even a week off where I would not be focusing on all the goals and projects, but instead would be focusing on rest. Then, after this couple of days or week had passed, I would make a big reset, and then the cycle would repeat itself. Only at the big age of 25 was I able to realize that it's not sustainable to work like that. Don't get me wrong, any system has its time and place, and even this horrible burnout cycle can serve you well for short to mid-term goals. So if you know that you need to, for example, prepare for an exam, that's the best system to try out because you know you will be able to take things easy afterwards. But if you're planning to work like that for pretty much the rest of your life, it's gonna mess things up. It's gonna mess up your health really badly, and you won't be able to achieve your goals because this system is not focused on a consistent effort over a prolonged period of time. And this realization actually prompted me to try out calendar blocking in the first place. I wanted to be happier, healthier, and less burned out in the long run. So when I started out by estimating how much time I would spend on each and every task. Once I was progressing with my planning skills, I also implemented past week review in my planning. So I would get back to the past week, or even during the sad week, I would adjust the time I actually spent on a task. So this realistic approach to planning pretty much helps me prevent burnout because I know how much time I spend on my projects and I don't overwork myself anymore. I also know that, for example, in the evening, I really need to have 1 to 2 hours of free time to rest, just to rest. And if I don't have this time and I still dedicate this time to my goals, I will be burned out. I wouldn't be able to sustain a steady pace for a long time. Surprisingly or not, calendar blocking also helps me stay more accountable with my planning. I'm much less prone to negotiating myself out of tasks when I don't feel like doing them because I know if I don't finish the tasks on a given day, I will have to sacrifice my free time for it, and this is something I really don't want to do. Next, calendar blocking helps me be more flexible with my time. I know I just said that I'm not negotiating myself out of tasks anymore, and you might feel like I'm contradicting myself right now, but hear me out. Flexibility here is only for us to take into consideration the human factor of planning. After all, we're not cogs in the machine, and I'm really against it when productivity content tries to equate people to some emotionless robots who can carry on regardless of what's happening in their life. Shit happens. You might get sick, some of your loved ones might get sick or be in a critical condition, knock on wood, but shit happens. There might be some global or local event that triggers you and forces you to deal with your emotions. That's why we need flexibility. I know I am myself an optimistic person, and minor things, so to say, like if I have a conflict with my loved ones or at work, if I have just a bad day, these things won't affect me as badly and I would be able to continue with my day. But if something big and drastic happens, then of course I want to either postpone my tasks or reschedule them, readjust my planning so that there is space both for productivity and for me being a human. Even outside of these big events that affect me and require my attention to my feelings, there might be some times when I would need to adjust my planning. For example, if a friend comes to town and I want to spend time with them and it just contradicts with my schedule, I will reschedule it. If I need to book a doctor's appointment and once again it contradicts with my schedule, I'll reschedule it. I know that this approach probably varies depending on the person, and I know that at some point I really needed to have a rigid structure because it taught me to value my own boundaries and value my own time and the plans I made for myself. So I really needed this period of 1 to 2 years where my plans would go above all else. But now that I'm okay with myself and I'm okay with standing up for myself and saying no, I guess, I can be more flexible. And I can also notice that being more flexible with my time, not getting upset about not being able to stick to my plan to the letter, also helps me reduce the anxiety that I already mentioned. Finally, and maybe this one is a bit unexpected, but calendar blocking helps me rest better. So here is my take on it. I have one day off as a non-negotiable. It can be Saturday or Sunday, depending on how I feel. Usually it's Saturday, simply because I like Saturdays better. And this day is reserved for rest. I don't work on this day. I only, sleep, eat. Usually I watch some series, play video games, or walk around. I don't do anything energetically or intellectually demanding. This time is for rest and rest only. And then the other day, usually Sunday, I try to keep as a day off as much as possible, let's say 90% of the time. But if something unexpected happens, like I need to book a doctor's appointment, or I need to clean the apartment because I didn't have time during the week, or I need to polish up my CV, then I would do it on Sunday because I realized that I won't have time during the week. And if I want to have this task completed, I unfortunately have to sacrifice some of my free time for it. But as might be clear already from the previous points, I have dedicated time for work and dedicated time for rest. And these two don't mix. So without calendar blocking, I used to work a little bit on the weekend, and I know it just doesn't work because then work and rest are being mixed up and it doesn't lead to good results because, as we all know, the task will always take as much time as you dedicate to it. So if I dedicate a week to a task, then I will be working on it for a week. And also, this type of routine wouldn't allow me to rest properly, so I would always be somewhat tired and somewhat unsatisfied. So now when I do calendar blocking and when I have a proper schedule in place, I can actually go head first into rest so that the next week I can go head first into work. Also, calendar blocking allows me to navigate the natural shifts in energy instead of trying to push the same amount of effort each and every day and thus provoking a burnout. Well, first of all, I'm a fertile woman, so I run off a cycle each and every month. It's more like a cyclical months. And what happens is that each and every day I have a different level of energy depending on the hormonal makeup, and that will carry on for, I guess, the next 20 to 30 years. There are also seasonal changes. Where I live in Finland, we have 4 different seasons and also very little sunlight during winter months, and it all affects how much energy I can dedicate to all the projects I have. I can't pretend that it doesn't affect me and I can work in the same fashion in winter as I do in summer. That's just not gonna happen. I have to be mindful of these things. Finally, I work as a marketer in a company that works on a fiscal year basis. So that usually means that closer to the end of fiscal year, so calendar year, I have a lot of deadlines and projects. There are usually some special campaigns for Christmas. We need to close the budget, propose a new budget. We need to choose the goals and KPIs we're going to be tracking the next year. All of this creates a lot of stress. So calendar blocking helps me be more mindful about the energy levels I have, and those helps me rest better and be more productive in my working hours. And this is it. I am definitely not a master of calendar blocking, but let's see how the whole thing changes in the next 6 months. Maybe I will have more insights to share. But for now, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any other comments, questions, suggestions, and I wish you a happy day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.